Oh, last time this got jacked up. Let's make sure it's working again. Okay, did anybody else's mom teach them how to catch snakes? Do you guys know how to catch snakes? You got to utilize the foot, put it lightly on the back of their back, and then you snatch the back of their head on their neck real quick, and then you take the other hand and get their butt, and in one swoop, you pick them up. Did other people not learn how to catch snakes? My mom caught snakes like it was going out of style. And then I realized I say that out loud, and I'm like, wait, my mom grew up in Southwest Detroit. Where and why was she catching snakes? And then it's like, oh no, she did used to go to Duck Lake or something sometimes, but other than that, no, she caught, and this, she'll talk about it, I'll get it on tape and I'll put it in here, a blue racer in Southwest Detroit, and she said it was the most beautiful thing ever. Can you just say that you caught a blue racer?
We did catch a blue racer.
How do you catch snakes?
Well, you want to put some pressure right behind the head, but leave a little bit of room for you to get right in front of your foot, because you don't want to smash their body, just enough to hold them. Get right behind that head and pinch it, and pick it up that way so that the head can't turn and bite you.
And you caught a blue racer with your sister?
We did, and oh my God, that was the most beautiful snake. It was beautiful.
Everybody says they are.
My sister was so excited. Well, you know how your Aunt Patricia is. Yeah, she's real smart. She's the only one of us who knew what the heck it was.
I was making a point about the snakes, and I was like, I'll put it on here and insert it real quick that Mom did catch a blue racer, and she's a snake catching champ.
Oh yeah, our whole life.
Yeah, I just assumed everybody knew how to knew how to catch snakes. And then my friend was like, I want to pet one. And then I was like, or he said, how do you catch one? Do I need one of those snake dancing sticks? And I was like, no, man, you don't know how to catch snakes? What's wrong with you? My mom caught snakes my whole life. I know how to catch a snake. Give me and my cousins 20 minutes. You got a snake in your house? We'll get it out. We can catch a snake. It's not that hard. It's a thing. And then I realized how insane that sounds. Either way, we're getting way off topic. We need to talk about Succession. Now, yeah. If you know how to catch a snake, put it in the comments. Say, I totally know how to catch snakes. And you don't stomp on them hard. You just utilize your foot to make them think they can't go nowhere. Oh my God, how long have I been talking about this? Okay, we watched Succession, episode 6. Now, did anybody else think it was a little jarring having Logan pop up right in the beginning? I was like, oh my God, this is making me so sad, and I miss him. But we really get to see these kids grieving, and now I've been saying, okay, I'm almost 100% positive. I've been praising this show, saying like they depict like the oldest, the middle, and the youngest very well. Somebody said that Roman is in the middle. I swear on everything, and maybe I'm wrong here, but I rarely am because I have a freakish memory that remembers things in a freakish way, that their mom calls Roman the youngest. But either way, if the girl's the youngest, I just think it's kind of a... It's not that it makes it bad or anything. This is obviously still a really great show. Who's screaming outside? Oh, you're playing Pokemon Go or something, whatever. Of course, it's still a really great show. But if you make it the daughter, the only girl, and the youngest, which one site said she wasn't, another said it was Roman. But either way, who cares? But if I've been saying that, I'm totally wrong. Maybe whatever. They're doing a really good job of showing these kids act like kids, even though they're adults when they're all together. Not only, I really liked seeing Shiv call them out on their BS and go, and honestly, oh my God. Joey, I'm in the middle of recording. Hello? Are you okay? Okay, I miss you. Do you know how to catch a snake? Okay, so your family... Yeah, no, my mom taught me how to catch snakes my whole life. I'm just realizing that's not a skill everybody has. Joey.
Sorry,
yeah, is that how you catch them?
That's the one way, but what's crazy, yeah, it's more 100% honest. Me and my dad are the same on accident. We both grew up like age 5, 6 catching snakes. We both got bit pretty bad. We don't really mess with them anymore.
I would prefer not to, but I'm just saying if somebody...
More fearless. Me and my dad, like, it's funny. We have the same story, you know?
Serious though. My mom, like, I realized how crazy this sounds when I say it out loud because people were like, wait, isn't your mom from the city? And I'm like, yeah, she caught a blue racer in Southwest Detroit. She talks about it all the time.
Oh, blue racers? Those are rare. Those are cool.
Believe me. Oh my God, Joey, she'll tell you all about it. Bring up what she caught in Southwest.
She caught one in Wayne County?
Southwest Detroit.
Wow, I didn't even know they were down here.
No, she caught a blue racer in Southwest Detroit. It was like her pride and joy.
I've only seen like 3 in my whole life.
I ran with wild packs. I didn't know wild packs of dogs were an issue until I became an adult and brought it up. I was like, I thought that was a thing from the 70s. Until everybody at work was like, no, man, you got to look out for those wild packs of dogs.
Sure, that's why, I mean, it's illegal for me to have this unless I open carry, but I have like this little collapsible baton now.
Oh, Flower always carried one of those.
Me and Hodge, you know? I'm gonna let that happen, so I got a little weapon now, you know?
No, Flower carried one all the time. She brought it to the club and they didn't know what it was. That thing could do damage for real.
Right. Same laws, you know?
Really? A baton? But what if we put a baseball bat in there? I get if it's concealed.
The state's different. It is bullshit. Everybody should be allowed a baton, you know?
I don't understand why that's illegal. Is that illegal in every state? I didn't know you couldn't have batons.
Oh, no. I think it's silly. You know what I'm saying? I'm on your side. Like, why? Why is this illegal? But, you know.
No, that's weird.
If a cop wants to give me a ticket as I walk a little weird on, just in case, you know, that's just insane.
No, but you were the perfect person to call for me to ask, like, you know how to catch a snake, right? How do you catch them? Do you not use your foot? How do you catch a frog? Do you know how the trick?
I always had a net, but
Oh no, it's if you shine a flashlight in their eyes, they freeze up like a deer for a minute. You can snatch them right up. God. Okay, guys, sorry, we just went down a rabbit hole. Where are we? The one thing that is really bothering me is that I really truly hope that Shiv tells somebody about this pregnancy, because like I said, there's not much that would really all these characters are pretty despicable and have their negative qualities, but when it comes to that, it's like that's a whole other thing, not telling somebody that you're pregnant with their baby, or is she going to hook up with Madsen and lie to him and say it's his, or something along those lines, because that's diabolical to do. But I was really taken back when we saw Logan in the very beginning, and what this show has done very well, because apparently I'm wrong about the ages of the kids, is showing the stages of grief and time passing. Their dad just passed a few days before. It's kind of like when you go to a wake or a funeral and you're like, it hasn't really hit you yet. It hits you, but it hits you more on that every day, I miss you, I don't see you, you know what I mean? It doesn't fully get you yet until usually later on, and then it hits you like a ton of bricks. I was saying that in the last episode, I was waiting for Roman to have his breakdown because he kept saying he pre-grieved and all this crap. Also, somebody said Connor is the most useless character. Like, have you ever watched anything like Game of Thrones or anything? There's always characters in the background that aren't used in every single episode that are huge to the story. And Connor Roy has been interested in politics from a very young age. And I'm excited to see what they do with Connor, but I definitely think that either the episode before the last or the final finale episode will be at Logan's funeral, and it'll be these kids having their either come together moment or a total breakdown. Because, like I said, this is all going boom, 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 and they're kind of just pushing themselves into work. And Shiv, I thought it was really kind of sweet and sad when she was scheduling these times to have that room, and when Tom's like, you're scheduling your grief? I was like, oh my God, that is what she's doing, and that's heartbreaking. But I feel like Shiv is really... she's really negative this season. I don't want to say I dislike her, because I don't dislike her as a character, but I'm like, man, dude, you aren't the most likable, but also I'm going to give you a bit of a pass because you probably are super emotional and sad, and all these people just lost their parent. That's super hard. I don't know if you guys have lost a parent, but I have twice. I lost my dad when I was 6, and I lost my uncle in the past year who raised me and took his place, and it sucks. It's one of the worst things ever, and I'm sorry to anybody who's dealt with losing anybody, but when you lose your parent... man, dude, it's rough. So I'm like, no, I get what they're doing here, but I really hope Shiv doesn't go that far. I truly don't want her to go that far. But I did like seeing her hooking up with Tom again. Tom's kind of on the in about Madsen, and now I've said this before about the Roys, and specifically sex, is they don't see it like normal people, like Roman, Shiv. Shiv almost wants a control thing, and it's almost like a power move to her, where do you want to know what it is? There's no intimacy between people. It's just the act of doing something with somebody. There's no real intimacy, and I think that scares Shiv, and I think that scares her with Tom, that she knows she can be truly intimate and trust him if she wanted to, but she doesn't know how that feels, and she cannot reciprocate it. So I feel like it comes out in these weird ways, like the biting game and all this stuff, and it comes off odd and strange, but the truth is they don't know how to be intimate or be close with another human being and be actually open with them, whether it's sexual or not. They don't know how to do that. So I think that's a very interesting take. But yeah, seeing Logan in the beginning really took me back. We have Kendall with the gleam in his eye, and I did like Shiv calling that out this whole episode, because that's true. You would call your siblings out. I was saying that to my mom. I go, I would be Roman. My middle sister would probably be Ken, and my oldest sister would probably be Shiv, and she'd be the one going, what are you assholes doing, and what is the game plan here? Because I liked her saying, you're lying to me right now, tell me the truth. And you see Roman really kind of unraveling, because he wants to keep everything the way his dad wanted it, and the truth is, we might not be able to keep it that way. I think that this episode had some of the funniest things in it, but was so serious that it was like, oh my gosh. But the Living Plus, I kind of think this was a shot at Disney Plus. I do. And I think Roman firing Joy was kind of a shot at Kathleen Kennedy. I do. I think that was a whole shot at that. But when they were like, we're going to live forever, and Tom says later on in the episode, how do you follow up eternal life? I almost fell out. I was like, oh my God, this is so funny. It's so funny. But yeah, what they're saying is, do you guys know what that Disney community is in the middle of their parks? It's really strange and weird, and I'm pretty sure a bunch of murders happened there. I don't know. I found it one day online, and I showed it to my mom. I was like, look at this craziness. And it's this weird cul-de-sac community in the middle of Disney World or Disneyland or something. And that's kind of what this was reminding me of. But that's what they were saying, if you didn't pick up on it, is that they wanted to make old folk communities and have people living there, and you'd be provided with everything. It'd be like living on a cruise forever. But it's like, would it really be that nice? Because in the other season, when we have the mom getting married, she marries that one guy, and Roman says, like, hey, don't you know what he does? He owns old folks home where he just crams terrible food down these old people's throats and treats them like garbage and waits for them to die. And it's kind of like, it kind of was giving off that vibe that that's really what it was. But I think Kendall truly believes like, oh no, this is a great idea. No, it's probably not. It's probably not. Whatever. But did anybody else get, it felt like that scene in Jurassic Park, but way more creepier. And then I don't know how this show does it tonally, because at first it makes you cringe so hard when Kendall first comes out on stage. But by the end of it, you're like, that kind of turned out semi-decent. But at first I was like, oh my God, this is like that scene in Jurassic Park, but way cringier and way more awful. You remember when John Hammond comes out when they're on the ride and you see the DNA strand? And he's like, hello, John. Hello, John. That's kind of what Kendall was trying to do there, I felt like. But it just came off disturbing and weird because we have your dead dad up on the screen. And you'd probably be better off just going, you know, we had this presentation with my dad there. We're not gonna use that. Bing, bang, boom, call it a day and do our own thing. But instead, we have it talking with us, and it's really weird. And then we have earlier in the episode Greg saying, edit it this way, edit it this way. And I loved later on the callback to that where Greg just in the background says, but isn't it edited really well? And I feel like they made that a bit more complicated than it could be, because I imagine there's a ton of recordings of Logan Roy. There would be a ton of recordings or voiceovers with somebody like that. So I'm like, you probably could either AI it or jumble some words together and make it sound like him. But we definitely see all of the kids having a falling out with, or just grieving. We see Kendall in the beginning, and even though his dad is saying jacked up stuff, he's getting so emotional. We have Shiv going to this room and getting upset, and she's kind of playing both sides. And I thought it was ironic of Tom to say, oh, you're keeping all your options open, huh? Yeah, okay, Tom, you kind of are too. But I do think Tom, out of everybody, and I've said this in every review I do, Tom is the bully that hangs out with other bullies, but when he's not with them, he's pretty cool. And you're like, man, I like you. Why do you have to act like this when your friends are around? Tom genuinely cares. I just really hope that Shiv tells him or her brothers that she's pregnant. Like, that's one thing where I'm like, we can put up with a lot from these characters. That is something that we'll be like, no, that's the lowest of the low. We can't do that, Shiv. Oh my God, can we just talk about this really quick? So, my mom loves Westerns, and I was like, dude, Deadwood's great. Like, the language is a lot, but it is great. And you love Ian McShane, so you should watch it. I totally forgot that Brian Cox, Logan Roy, shows up in the 3rd season, and she audibly gasped and yelled at me. She went, oh my God. And I was like, oh my God, I totally forgot that he shows up in season 3. Also, can we just say this for the record before I continue with my review? I'm just getting my notes up. I know that a lot of people say that Spider-Man 2 and Doc Ock is the greatest superhero film of all time. I'll fight that and I'll argue. I think it's X2. I think it's X-Men 2, and I truly do believe, I don't think there's been a better villain that Marvel in its entirety, not just the MCU, has had on screen than Brian Cox as William Stryker. I watched that movie so many times. It's one of the first reviews I did on this channel, and it's a terrible review, so I should redo it. I think it's 20 years old this year, so we have an excuse. Magneto's my favorite ever, just so you guys know. But Brian Cox as William Stryker is so good, and I watched that DVD so many times that it burned out. I didn't know that you could do that to a DVD, but you can, and that's how much I loved that. And that opening scene with Nightcrawler, nothing does it better. I do like them being in LA in this episode. I feel like LA gives a totally different vibe from New York, and I know it's cliche to say like the city is a character, but the truth is the city really is a character in this show. And Logan always said that. He's like, being outside of America, it feels soft, it feels weak, but even being in LA, it feels a little softer and a little different from being in New York with this structure. Does that make sense? But when we have Roman meeting with Joy, and that's why I'm like, Living Plus, Disney Plus, Joy, and he's just firing everybody. Obviously, he's very emotional right now, and she even says that to him. She's like, Roman, a lot's been going on, it's going to hit you, this, that, and the other thing. Now, I'm not saying that Roman's decision is wrong. He just can't be willy-nilly doing this. Same thing with, I don't know everything about companies and corporations and stocks, but I know damn well you can't just be willy-nilly throwing away deals and things like that, because you affect other people, you affect their jobs, you affect stocks, and that's why it's a legality issue. That's why what Roman did is such a big problem. I do like that he semi-came clean, and like I was saying, I do like that Shiv throughout the episode is calling her brothers out and going, are you guys gonna lie right to my face? I can tell that Kendall's getting all crazy with it, and Jeremy Strong does such a good job with this kid. They all do a great job, but Jeremy Strong really does do a great job. But you do know when Kendall has that gleam in his eye and he's like, oh, this is a great idea, even though it's really not. And how about when he was showing those co-pilot jackets to Roman and they were so stupid? And I'm like, oh my God, this is so funny. But yeah, them talking about living forever, especially after their dad dying, that's a bit of a coping mechanism, but also the things they're saying is crazy, and this community sounds just too good to be true, and it probably is, you know what I mean? And I just am like, oh no. And they keep trying to tell them that, like, no, tech is the future, stop doing this. And I think Roman is holding on to it because his dad came up with it and he doesn't know how to let it go. Kendall just wants to be Steve Jobs' showmanship and then not follow through. I liked Carl saying, if you screw me on these numbers, Ken, I'm going to be pissed. I actually am really good at my job. And I think Carl is one of the most underrated funny people in this entire series. Last season with the Go Vamp Carl, it was so funny. Anytime they have somebody on stage, it's usually funny. But if you did notice, Kendall forces those people to essentially skew the numbers to make it better for him. And then later on, we have Carl going, don't screw me on this. I know my stuff. And if you go up there and pop off about numbers and this and that, and it's not true, I'm going to be pissed and I'm going to let everything out. I'm going to let everything out of the bag. I don't know exactly what that means, but it's like, you've been there for decades. You probably have a lot of info you could let out on them. And it could be bad. Frank, I always think he's a weasel. Jerry, Roman firing her, but I don't think that was a full firing. But either way, he's pissing people off. You're firing Joy. You're firing Jerry. I think that's a huge mistake. But these are all out of emotion. And then Kendall is like, yeah, do it. Showmanship. House. Clouds. And then complaining about it was funny. But it's one of those things where it's almost to them like a rock star show. And Roman wants to hang on to what his dad did. Kendall wants to do the showmanship, and Shiv is like, stop leaving me out. And she's being emotional, and honestly, I think she's being really super mean, like way meaner than she has to be. But I also understand all these characters are grieving, they're emotional, they're going through it. So Shiv, I probably understand the most, and Roman. Like I said, I relate to Roman the most as a character. I really do. As a kid, as with his dad, with his family, with his siblings. I'm not saying that I'm like Roman in terrible ways, but when it comes to, I'm going to joke around instead of being serious. I'm going to act like everything's fine when it's not. I know that it's bubbling over inside of me, and I'm probably making irrational decisions, but I'm going to keep saying they're good ones, and then it's all going to come out. And that's why I'm like, okay, I think the final 2 episodes or the finale is going to be at Logan's funeral, and it's all going to come to a head for all of them. I think I burst out laughing more than once when Ken said big shoes like 5 times. Oh my God, that was funny. But yeah, Carl says, don't screw me. And if you notice, Kendall doesn't say any numbers. He doesn't repeat any numbers. He doesn't do that because I think he knows that's a really bad idea. And Carl's right. We can't just go willy-nilly saying numbers because, like I was saying, I might not know everything about stocks and business and everything, but I know that you can't just willy-nilly say numbers and things like that when you're a huge media conglomerate that affects thousands of people and their jobs and stock markets and things like that. So it was probably more of a legality thing, but Carl, I think, really checked him back down to reality. And the old guard sitting up there, I think it really showed, yeah, we're cheering for the Roy family, but remember, we kind of need these guys. They're new to this. Now, I want to know, what do you guys think Shiv is going to do with Madsen? That's what I want to know. What do you think Shiv is going to do with Madsen? Because he keeps calling her and saying, like, yeah, I don't like this, yada, 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 throw a wrench in it, do this, do that. But the tweet he makes, if you didn't pick up on that, that is a, am I allowed to say this or not? It's a, okay, let's just say it because I hate this editing shit. It's a Nazi phrase. It means to, like, I want to say that it was on a concentration camp, like something. I mean, I sound stupid saying that because it's such a huge thing, and the magnitude of that I should know clearer before I say it. But I'm pretty sure it's like to work. What? Either way, I think it was etched into Auschwitz or Birkenau. That's what I think. And essentially what he was doing was saying, this is a place for these elderly people to come and die, like a concentration camp. And that was the parallel he was making. And for Roman to even say, like, this isn't a funny joke, this is an offensive Holocaust joke, is rough. And I think even Shiv realized at that moment, like, you want to know what? It was kind of all fun and games with this crazy person, because he's nuts. That Madsen is nuts. You're sending blood to people, you're making jokes. Like, I'm sorry, but even if you told me to throw a wrench in something, the last thing I'm going to do is bring up the Holocaust. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to joke about it, that's for sure. So essentially imagine someone taking Mickey Mouse. Say Disney was selling to this person. That'd be a big thing, right? Well, all of a sudden they tweet Mickey Mouse with a swastika on his head and saying something from Mein Kampf. You'd be going, that's not good. You know what I mean? That's really bad. Work sets you free. That's it. I knew it was free and I knew it was work, but it's work sets you free in German, and it's, it's about genocide is what it is. So that was the parallel that Madsen was making. But like I said, imagine taking your big character like Mickey Mouse, or I'm trying to think of another, Shrek, or something from a big company. You automatically associate that with DreamWorks. You automatically associate him with Disney. And then we put him in a SS uniform and we go, oh, you're making a terrible, terrible, awful joke. And I think that even Shiv was like, Jesus, I knew you were nuts. I didn't think you were this nuts. But he ends up deleting it. But I loved the line that Carolina said saying, he's about to base jump into a buzzsaw, because Kendall's up there making a speech, already kind of looking crazy, but also salvaging it. And then the tweet happens. And Shiv knew he was going to do something, but I don't think she didn't know that. And I think that it genuinely did bother her. And like I said, for Roman to be bothered by it is like, and everybody knows how bad it is. And when somebody asks about the tweet, Kendall does handle himself very well. And Madsen does take it down. but the implication is still there and it's rough. And I'm like, no, this shows just how bad this guy is. Not only were you sending blood to your employees, which is bad, stalking them, bad, coming from somebody who has stalked on and off of Ford Motor Company property and followed home and having horrible things happen and reporting it to my company and them going, nope, it's your fault. And I'm going, wow, I'm going to get... Honestly, I'll tell you guys the truth. I reported that shit, so in case something happened to me and I was murdered, my mom would know what happened. I didn't even care about Ford or the UAW or anything, but it's not a good feeling. So I was like, oh my God, this man is scary. And then to do that, I'm like, I can think of a lot of offensive things. Genocide is not one of those things. Genocide is just genocide, and it's not funny. It's bad. And yeah, so I think this guy's really showing his true colors, and I think that the Roys are like, we're scumbags, but we're not as scummy as you. At the end of the episode, we have Roman rewatching the recording that was made of, like, his dad saying stuff he didn't really say, but even though it's stuff he didn't really say, you can tell that Roman is really missing him. We have, who is this? It's Mom. She caught a blue racer. Where are we at? Okay, so we have Roman watching the recording. He's getting emotional. We have Kendall, and anytime Kendall's around water, and I've said this in my other reviews that are not good. I can't believe people are rewatching those. Thank you, but oh my God, that was when I first started, and thank you if you're still here from those, and I'm so sorry that I have not been answering stuff. It's been a really long, bad week. I'm going to get into it in another video, but I do worry about Kendall around water, and I was like, okay, I don't think he's going to attempt suicide again, so... I think this is just showing, like, okay, the last time we saw him first time we see him near a body of water in season 1, somebody else dies. Then the next time we see him in the pool, he almost dies. Now we see him swimming on top of the water, and he's okay. But you can also tell that he's emotional, but he's coming to grips with things. Shiv has been crying throughout the episode, and you can chalk it up to pregnancy, you can chalk it up to her dad dying, or all of it, because it's a lot. But... I really like them showing this grief and how they're all going through that. And I think that Tom genuinely wants to be there for her and wants to be there for this family, but he's like, I don't know how to be there for these freaks with no emotions. Like, what do I do? Her reaction is to just be mean and meaner and meaner. Kendall is to go full rock star in the moment, and Roman's is to try and hang on to the past of what his dad did, but that might not fully work. I would love to hold up the legacy. My mom would want 100%, but the truth is I might be able to do it 60, 70, 80%, but you can never do it fully. And I do think they're right with some things, but I also think Roman is right with some things, but I get where he's coming from. But like I said, I'm biased and I feel for that character and relate to that character the most. But we do see this breakdown with all of them. And we do see Tom and Shiv saying, like, we're going to hang out, but we don't know. What the did you guys hear that? Oh my God. Also, there's a door being installed. This is a whole day, but Tom and Shiv together at the end, and they're like, well, maybe we can do this, but it's going to be like this. And like I said, none of these characters, none of the Roys can really truly open up to anybody. But I'm genuinely excited to see the next few episodes. And honestly, I can't think of the last time I watched a show, and not in a bad way. I'm like, wow, this feels like it's actually lasting. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like it's not flying by, but it's also not a slog, and I love it. And I'm so sad that it's ending. Also, don't count out Cousin Greg still. I don't know about this stuff with Nicholas Braun, the actor, because there is stuff out there saying that he was being a creep to underage girls in the real world. And my mom even said that. She goes, well, she's like, this guy looks kind of squirrely. She's always said that about Cousin Greg. But my only issue with that whole scenario is maybe it did happen. Maybe it is happening. I don't know. But I'm going to wait for more information before I speak about it. If that's going on, that's not okay. But I also don't think it's okay, just so you guys know, just in general, not with this situation in particular. Maybe don't hop online and pop off about somebody else's trauma and somebody else's situation and go, well, I didn't do it, but they had it happen to them. That makes you kind of come off like an ass. So even if you mean well, like this girl on TikTok might have meant well, but to me it kind of comes off like you wanted to beat her to the punch about her own issue, if that's what happened. I don't know, because they're saying that he was creeping on a girl at Coachella, that she was underage, that she stated she was underage, and that him and her hooked up later on anyways, and that he was hitting on her friend before that, but the friend was the one who was like, he wanted to get with me, but then I said, and here's a picture of me with him, and then I said no, and like I said, that girl might be fully telling the truth. I'm not saying she's not. What I'm saying is allow somebody else to come forward with their story before you go, let me tell your story for you, whatever that may be. I'm not judging anybody or saying anybody's wrong, but I really hope that they get to the bottom of that. I really hope that that didn't happen, and I really hope that that girl's okay, that it did happen to, and the girl who made the TikTok. I hope they're both okay, but I hope that the girl who might have actually had it happen to her is more okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to hop online and go, you want to hear about all the trauma my friends and family went through, and spill it to you guys. That's not okay to do. And unless you were like, hey, Abby, it's okay for you to do this, then I might talk on it and speak on your behalf for you, but not like that. So yeah, the Cousin Greg outside of Succession, the Nicholas Braun actor scenario, I'm watching that situation, but I go into detail in my video about that, about Nicholas Braun, about everything. And God, I'm going to miss this show so much. I really am. But this episode, I feel like didn't have as much info in it, but I do think it was kind of one of the funnier episodes of this season. Now, some people aren't really liking this season, and I think, I don't want to be too mean here. It's kind of like when people don't understand like irony and stuff, or like dry humor, and I'm like, are you just dumb? Or did you just expect the same things over and over and over again? Because I don't want the same things over and over again. I like the drama with the comedy, and I like them both, more with drama in certain episodes and more with comedy in certain episodes. But yeah, I'm Abby with Motor City Nerds. I gotta go watch my nephew. Dude, my nephew, I call my nephew Kakarot, right? I've called him that since the day he was born. I'm like, my little Kakarot, come here. He met a real Kakarot at the park. He met a real one. And my mom, 67-year-old granny, how awesome is this? Here's this dad going, Kakarot, Kakarot. So my nephew keeps turning around and looking at this guy, and she's like, Dragon Ball Z, that's Goku, right? That's what that is. And he's like, yeah. How many grannies are at the park talking about Dragon Ball Z? That's all I'm saying. Let's give my mom credit where credit is due. But he's like, no, that's my son's actual name. And she's like, that's what my daughter calls him. And I was like, that is so funny. But either way, I'm like, let's give my mom props, because how cool is that to have a granny talking about Dragon Ball Z to somebody's dad at the park? I'm Abby with Motor City Nerds. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Yeah, a ton of stuff is going to be posted today. But yeah, it's been a hard week, and we're just going to put it like that.